known as AB grade, A being the top. It also has a lot of understory in it that supports a lot of different wildlife and habitats. And the other reason why this area is special and we've targeted for preserving or maintaining is on the other side, although you can't see it, and I don't know if people have been able to walk in around here at any given time. Sometimes it's too wet to walk around there, but last year actually was quite dry. There is a naturalized wetland that's adjacent to the trees, and then there's a grassland. And that's what makes this area so special for preservation, is because it has 3 different types of habitat, and when you have different types of habitat all together in one area, it really makes it support a wide variety of wildlife and mammals and amphibians and things like that. And because those types of animals usually, almost always use 2 types of habitats. Very rarely will you ever find one animal or bird or any creature using one type of habitat. And that was a surprise to us in the end, talking about the frogs. I always thought frogs just lived in water, but it was explained to us that no, frogs require water, grass, and trees to survive. And so when you're looking at preserving natural areas, you need to look at preserving more than one type of habitat, generally speaking. So that's what makes this piece one of the pieces that we're really interested in targeting to preserve in the area. And this is owned by Qualico. Qualico are the people that we're going to be targeting to impress upon that any areas that we want to set aside, this will be one of them. And according to the development agreement parameters, which is a city document, any developer really is only permitted, only has to preserve or set aside 10% of the developable area for natural space. So that's not very much. And so we're working in conjunction with the Charleswood Historical Society to place pressure on city to use different tools, and I think they have agreed to, of course, like vegetation easements, land swaps,
land dedication reserves.
Yeah.
And the city, like the 10% itself, is not something you have to adhere to. You can increase it because the city says it's just a minimum of 10%. But if you find a high quality natural area like this, you know, you want to do as much as you can to preserve it and keep it. And the
yeah,
well,
that's the
you
thing.
keep putting the pressure on.
Yeah. So Qualico
And
is,
the Harte Trail is not part of that 10% agreement. It's nothing.
It's already existing
It's
parkland.
existing, and it will stay the way it is or increase depending on how much pressure we can put on them to increase it by whatever means we have. So that's where you guys come in as well, because we need to put pressure on the city and the developer, and
you're getting the message.
Have to convince Qualico that this would be a good selling point.
Yes, that's a good point.
absolutely,
Absolutely.
yes, absolutely.
I was mentioning the quinticentennial, is it? Quinticentennial? In only 4 years. And that could be a major, major funding source, particularly for federal funding. So that's another story, if it's not all gone and developed by that time.
Well, that's, we got to start, we got to act now, because this plan is going for approval at the end of June.
Yeah.
So.
And what happens is the precinct plan itself is an overarching set of rules and guidelines for how the area is to develop. But they don't do it all at once. So as you know, that the very far west side, Qualico has already submitted an area development plan. Now, it has to adhere to the precinct principles, so the precinct plan principles have to be approved first, and then each development plan for sub-areas have to meet those principles, and then more detailed information is approved through there. But that's also the time that the natural areas are set aside, are during those the development area plans. So there's 11 of them.
Yep.
There's 11 sub-areas in this precinct. So each sub-area has to, the developers of those, and it won't be all Qualico, it could be, private landowners getting together and submitting a plan according to the precinct's guidelines, right? But then we need to look at what area of the 10% are you going to be setting aside. We've got to make sure that it's quality area, that it's biodiverse, it's some of the targeted areas that we want to see preserved. And then the city needs to use their tools to help expand that amount that's preserved. And then there's a role for all of us to fundraise and purchase land outright. So that's another option those are the three options really that we're looking at to try and preserve as much natural area as possible.
Yeah, that's good.
So, and the other thing and Len had mentioned too is that when they put in the transportation corridor here, because major roadways are
Oh,
determined
that's
at the precinct level, there's a big transportation